Hmm. But it was made of gold, so we didn't want to share it with everyone. Welcome to Hacking Business Technology, the podcast that comes into focus real slowly right at the intro. That was kind of nice. We've got Mr. Kawasaki and Mr. Hoopa here.
Hello.
Hey guys.
Sounds like Farah won't make it again this week. Personal issues this time, so Farah, our thoughts are with you. So today we thought we would read dramatically, because what I do is I've got a process for the podcast, believe it or not, where I go to news.google.com and search for ITSM, and I sort it by the last week's information, and it's always really, really depressing, right? And so I thought this week we should delight in this treasure trove of depression together. So we'll just go through some of these real quick here. The first one is businesses need to rethink ITSM in light of technological change.
Oh, yeah. I saw this article.
Are you sure? Are you serious? We do?
Well, actually, there's an assumption in that title that technological change is just beginning now. Like, that's the implication, right? Yeah. Sorry. If now is the time to rethink, you're already too late, because technology's been changing since pencils, baby.
Yeah, what's funny is there was a thing in that article. I didn't read the whole thing, but I read a little bit of it. He said that the cloud has now standardized the way that services are delivered, so there's not as much need for customization. ITIL's out of loop, and I'm thinking to myself, what cloud is this guy on?
Oh, it's Rackspace.
So what?
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah. The idea that you don't need to customize software for a business is pretty insane. Can you imagine, I guess, maybe if Amazon didn't use their own custom web commerce solution? No. I think that's their differentiator.
The deployment practices get standardized across the vendors.
Yes.
I'll give them that much, right? The way I provision AWS, doesn't matter whether I'm provisioning a Linux box, a Windows box, or a Ubuntu or whatever. I mean, it's it's the same clicks, right? It's the same API call.
And there are some generalizations you can make, like if you're in the healthcare industry and you've got 900 hospital beds, you're probably about just like this person. You have to be compliant with these three things or whatever. But there's always going to be inconsistencies, whether it be foundation data or presentation layer or, gosh, anything.
Yeah, but it goes back to this academic view of what ITSM is.
And should
because the reality is when you're delivering a service, it all depends on the demand. At the end of the day, there are three components, right? Supply, demand, and knowledge. So it's just, I don't care what you're using for cloud. I don't care how elastic it is. The fact that it's elastic might even be more of a problem, because now we have the sprawl of data and this expansion of service offerings that we are now paying for that we don't even really know how they're being utilized or what they're doing for us.
Yeah, that's true. Walked into a couple of clients recently where they've got just tons of software sitting on the shelf. It just blows my mind, and it's because they can't leverage it. They just don't. They cannot get from point A to point D, and thank goodness there are people that can get them there, because I'm sure they've got the money for it, because if they don't, it's going to be a major waste. So let's keep going. So yes, we do need to rethink ITSM in light of technological change. I don't think you do need customization to some extent, and if this is news breaking to you, you should be watching this podcast or something. To do something, because you're going to get better on your own than reading that article. Okay, second one is a PR release about someone selecting a product. Those always kind of make me laugh, and they always show up. I feel like maybe I need to sort of keep track of them or something, so I can track who's got what software. And then when a 0-day vulnerability comes out, I can do something.
So I just looked up this guy who wrote this article. Actually, it was Jamie Spector. He's here in Tampa. Maybe I'll have a beer with him and actually see what.
Nice. Get him on the podcast. We'll get him on the podcast. We'll make sure that he gets paid in exposure.
Yeah, But it's a classic. I guess he works for a vendor, Sunview. They've been around for a while.
Oh yeah, they've been around forever, longer than me actually.
So, but that's I think that's the challenge, right? You said it, Barry. You got all this stuff, you don't know what to do with it. I was sitting with the CIO yesterday morning, and he was saying to me, he owns all these Oracle products because all of a sudden Oracle started buying up all these other products he had. He said, by default, I became an Oracle shop, and I never wanted to be.
I wonder why you never wanted to be.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Have you seen an Oracle licensing model? But it's like we're this by default. We're an ITIL shop. We're a Windows shop. We're a Linux shop. Everybody wants to oversimplify all this stuff, and it's just ridiculousness.
Yeah, those Oracle licenses are terrible. There are tools that will take care of that for you. If you don't know what they are, please contact me or Google it, because seriously, they're all over the place. The thing is that it is incredibly complex, to the point where in like 3 episodes we talked about it. There's a webinar out about IBM licensing. It's terrible. It's complex, and that's how they make money. They should have a patent on complexity of licensing.
Yes. Yeah.
So the third one down, Sharewell Software doubles employee base, hires key ITSM. It's a press release from MarketWired. Yeah, Sharewell's hiring. In case you didn't know, they raised like $12 million or something like that last year, so they're hiring still.
It's funny. A few years ago, we had Sharewell on the ITSM Weekly podcast, and it was impressive to hear them talk about. It was Matt and I and some guy from California. I can't remember who it was, but they were talking about how they were using Sharewell outside of ITSM space, and he was talking about ESM, and ESM was just starting to catch on then, and then it kind of faded. It's just funny now that ServiceNow has tapped onto this ESM buzzword and concept.
They got it from the podcast. They were watching.
I'm sure, but it's it is funny that no one heard of Sharewell, and now they are starting to get some traction. I mean, we're
pretty well.
We're a Sharewell partner here at ISM, and I'm supposed to go through some sales training to understand. I look forward to it. I want to dig in a little bit more and learn a little bit more about them, but I always just wonder, like, how many of these tools, how do they survive, and what is the traction point,
Well, Sharewell always seemed to pitch to smaller companies, and it's interesting now that ServiceNow has come up with, what do they call it, ServiceNow Express or something, a light version that isn't to be customized or configured to any great degree. Yeah. So I'm curious about that. I mean, we talked about not in the past, if someone could offer a solution that you didn't customize, but actually did what you wanted it to do, could it take off? So I wonder if Sharewell feels threatened by that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I saw that whole thing with ServiceNow, and I wonder about that play. Like, can you serve two masters? Can you really be the enterprise service management tool and get out of ITSM space at the same time offer a product where you are clearly just a help desk replacement Zendesk competitor?
Well, you know what it does? It just raises the bar. I mean, now you have no excuse to have no governance at all, right? You could at least take the out-of-box governance.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that a vendor has actually taken a stance and said, hey, this will work out of the box for you. I mean, like...
Axios has. Axios has definitely had that marketing spin. They've always been the one to say, listen, out of the box, we're going to be there. And Hornbill too actually has had that, we're going to be 80% for what you need out of the box,
Mm-hmm.
The next 20% is really expensive.
Yeah, that's the challenge, right?
Yeah, so I've heard about out of the box stuff before, but you brought it up last week, Cooper. The switching cost. That's where it's a commodity now. I need power in my house. I'm stuck with this one provider. If it's easy for me to switch providers and one's cheaper, I'm just gonna move it.
Yep.
And so that's kind of what it becomes then. Is a commodity value. It's how fast can I put it in, take it out, and is it going to cost me less over 10 years?
Yeah. And can you get the bundle? Can you get voice, data, and television all in one
We
package.
just fixed all of RFPs, like every RFP ever. We also fixed every press release. You never have to do a press release about having market share anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one, Mark, you take this one.
Okay, so this one, I was noticing it before we started. How Bupa, that's B-U-P-A, used a pantomime to explain service management. I mean, it took me a while just to get through that title because I'm so confused. But
A pantomime.
I don't even know where to begin.
Did you read the article? Was it any good?
I'm just browsing it right now. I haven't read it yet.
I can't figure it out. I just can't figure out how they would even do it. Like, I'm a fairly creative person, right? And I've been in theater forever. I've been in digital art and theater for like 20 years. I cannot imagine explaining, okay, to what extent did you explain ITSM? Did you throw a computer out the window and then, like, go pick it up? Like, oh, I know. Can't pantomime, they actually, like, form shapes and letters, and then they made a font set and typed out the process documentation in the font set of the pantomime's limbs? No? I tried really hard. The next one's in Spanish. Las soluciones ITSM poco aprovechadas. That's too hard for me.
Oh.
The next one's in Russian, and that's not even, like, phonetic.
I can't read it.
The Russian one is tough. Or I guess that could be Ukrainian. No, that is Russian. .ru. Then German. I love seeing the different languages. I love the diversity. Those are all very white countries by this point. Service improvement hinges on service management offices. Cures for the common help desk headaches. Tylenol.
It still amazes me, though, how very little the senior leaderships within businesses think about the ITSM space, though.
It's a differentiator.
You know, and it really is. It's, again, I've said it a million times. It's ITSM's own fault, because we use terms like IT services. We focus on IT services, and we use terms internally like customer. You know, we're not talking agility, and we're not talking about, you know, the things that are going to help optimize an organization. But you know what is a huge pain point for COOs, CFOs, and CEOs? Work request management.
Yeah, just
supply and demand. You know, business value activity deliveries. You know, it's like those are the essence of ITSM, but you never hear anybody in the ITSM world speak that. Because we're so focused on incident.
They've got policies written against it. You cannot use systems that enable these features.
That's right.
And they'll list them off. They'll say you cannot use this Kanban board application. You cannot use Google Apps. They will list off the different, no Yammer accounts. If anyone starts a Yammer account with a company address, you will be terminated immediately.
Yep, Trello will be shut down at the firewall.
I didn't say it because I didn't want anyone to say that to me, because Trello is the best thing in the world.
Don't give anybody any idea.
You know what I found, and so I struggle with this. Because at every company I've always struggled with this, and I've come to the point now where I always hit up against IT within the first week of me getting hired anywhere, and it's not because of the shitty. I'm not supposed to say that word. I got to bleep that out before I put that on iTunes now. It's because that crappy laptop that they give me, that brick laptop that I'm not going to use, but I don't care about that. They won't hear about me about that because I've got my Mac and I can just make it work. But I always butt heads on the policy. It's always about the data policy. You cannot use such a service because it blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And, you know, we need to write policies that are the opposite. Anytime it says you cannot use this service, you need to put in a policy and a service that says you can use this service because it provides this, 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 and this.
Yeah.
Yeah, or you should make every effort to maximize this. You know, something positive. Look for tools that actually help you be productive or innovate.
Propose tools. Here's the input mechanism to get a tool reviewed and supported.
Absolutely. We talked about this before, you know, having an option list. You can't tell someone, no, you can't have a cloud-based storage system. You need to say, okay, you could have a cloud-based storage system. You can use, this corporate Google Postini, which is SAS 70 type certified, and it's going to cost you X dollars. Or we can go over here to Box, .NET, which gives us, file level controls and compliance and wipe capabilities and offline, protection. Okay, these are your options, right?
Yeah, or even go old school. Even be okay with old school, like file share. But you still need to enhance that feature set to be competitive, or at least present it in such a way that people can compare the apple to the orange, or the different varieties of apples, so that they are getting a sweet one instead of a bitter one.
Yep. Yep.
But they don't want to have to deal with that. They don't want to have to go through the process of approving everyone's whim.
But no, it's not a process of approving, though. You give them an option list, you put it in a self-service catalog, and they self-select. There's a price associated or some kind of thing that gives them the value proposition, whatever that means in your organization. If you do charge back, then applause to you, because you should.
It's service portfolio management. I mean,
there has to
be someone in the role that says, these are the services we provide, here's an input mechanism. Maybe it gets filtered through managers or VPs or whatever, some org structure that totally sucks. And then, it gets to me, and I say, yes, that can go on the portfolio or not.
But Baron, you're not using Trello because it's in your company's portfolio.
His company doesn't have a portfolio. That's the whole problem.
Yes. My company does, but my IT department doesn't.
Right.
So, I mean, bring your own app is I just don't see how we can't make that what we're going for here.
Yeah. It could. Bring your own app has inherent risks, though, Mark, right? Like, here's the thing, is like if you went Dropbox, well, maybe not Dropbox now, but Dropbox 6 months ago, that might have been a failure because you started sharing a root folder and all these people had access to it, and there's no way to back it up unless you have a particular machine set up with Box, backing it up offline. So it's just, there are inherent risks with that. You can get the same functionality out of Google Drive, Postini, or you could get it out of Box, or you could get it out of Office 365 with iCloud. That'll give you the exact same functionality, but in something that we can manage at a corporate level. Because it's not your data, it's my data. You work for me, it's my data, not yours. I don't care how you manage that data and what you do with it, as long as it's within these guidelines. That's how I want to run my business.
Yeah, and so what happens is, I get put on like an internal non-client work project where I'm improving Maryville or whatever, and we use whatever tools we need to because it's non-confidential information. There's no clients involved. There's really no money involved except for our time, just collaborating. Yep. And then what happens is I get all of this great data, beautiful content. Trello tells me to the second how long I'm spending on tasks and activities, who's collaborating with me, and my company has no access to any of it. And that is the part that really bothers me the most, because I want them to be able to leverage that. There, I said it!
Well, so, when I got here, I launched Evernote, right? I have a premium edition. I started creating Evernotes, and I made people who wanted to collaborate with me get Evernote. I launched Google Drive. I did a premium version where I could get the secure and protected version of it and have 100 gig, whatever it is, to my disposal.
What did IT say? Where's IT?
I didn't ask. I'm the president of the division. I didn't ask.
Didn't you read the policy?
That's the challenge, though. And I want my people to have the same level of autonomy as me, but obviously there's politics involved, right?
Yeah, but I mean, you're dealing with a different kind of data than most people, Matt. I think 80% of the data, maybe more, that most people and companies are accessing does not need to be proprietary or secure. If the company had a different stance on transparency and openness, and then they could use whatever tools they want and really open it up.
Well, build systems that leverage the data without looking at the data, or don't even display the data. As soon as the credit card is entered, it's encrypted.
Yeah, Mark, I'm not sure I agree with you, though, and because I think that you live in a world where that's probably very unique, but not so much everybody else. Like, I can't imagine. I mean, how much of Fidelity's data do you think should be open and transparent? as someone who has their investments in Fidelity, I'm going to tell you 0 from my perspective.
Well, individually identifiable information, sure.
But what else do they have? I don't want them even to share my age and how much I buy or sell stock, or how much I put in my 401k, or how much I roll over. I don't even want them to do statistical analysis on me. That's my.
But they probably do.
I'm sure that they do for themselves, and I'm sure that they do for the industry. But I want them to make that publicly accessible.
Or even mistakenly accessible.
Because here's what's going to happen, right? If you see that people will invest more money when they're 45 versus when they're 42, when I turn 45, that money's going to cost me more. It's going to. Of course it's going to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's lots of different kinds of models and companies. I mean, I'm just really interested in the kind of employee advocacy programs I see in places, Target, different places like that, where people have access to what works within their environment, and it's their job to share that data just like any other employee. And it's just a different environment like that. It doesn't necessarily mean they can use whatever tool they want, but they have a different stance when it comes to what's public and how they talk about what their company's doing.
This is the same Target that sent a baby care package to a teenage girl because they predicted that she was pregnant by what she was buying, and her father got the package and said, "This is a huge mistake," and went off on the manager, and they came back and said, "Well, actually, no, she was pregnant."
Yes, not necessarily a bad thing.
That Target.
Hey, you know what it is? It's fit for purpose. There are different strokes for different folks. I would not work well in the banking industry because, number one, I hate privacy.
That's true. That's a good point. I like that. I mean,
and that's why I've chosen the creative space. But then it comes down to being able to be able to segregate data that is protected and not protected. Because if you can do that, then you can let your creatives go nuts on Trello, and you'll get good value out of them. And your bankers will have their little number crunchy thingies. Computers.
It's always circumstantial. It's a tough thing, right? It's like you kind of love your text messages showing up on your laptop now and your iPad and your phone, right? Except for that one text message that you wish you didn't go anywhere, right? Your kid's using your iPad and your loved one sends you a, it's like, okay, well maybe you didn't want that going everywhere, or whatever. It's just it's so hard.
Hooper, tell us the story, Matt Hooper.
I don't. I get only sweet things from my wife, but I'm just saying hypothetically, right? It's usually the other way around.
But the reverse use case is totally true. She texts you, take out the garbage, and your son sees it, and he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, let's go." Right?
You do live in a fantasy world.
How many times am I going to walk off camera for this episode too, for dramatic effect?
Yes, it's the refocusing effect of your camera.
Yeah, my poor webcam's working overtime. So what else? Do we have anything else we want to talk about this week?
Well, so you talked. I think go back to your original thing, sprawl, right? So let's talk about sprawl. I mean, hacking biz, right? It's about accomplishing more and faster. But I don't know that I'm accomplishing more with less. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like my application sprawl is getting bigger and bigger. Like I now have to manage not only my social media accounts, but now I have like Expensify, and I have all these other kind of apps that I'm using to Evernote, like we talked about. It's just more and more. And like I have PowerPoint on my iPad, but I use Keynote on my iPad. So now, even for the same things, it's just, yeah.
Well, you have to kind of go through a cycle of cleanup. I mean, I find myself going through that. You look at your sprawl, and then you try to consolidate and make it more efficient. I think that's something everybody has to do. But what I've noticed is that I'm focusing on much more minute intervals of efficiency now. I mean, I imagine myself 10 years ago, and it was, how can I save an hour during my day? Now it's like, how can I save a few seconds every 10 minutes?
Oh, you're getting older,
that is
Mark.
repetitive, that can easily be overcome. I mean, it's true. It's embarrassing, but it's true.
Since the car accident, his time is more precious.
Yes. You can't see, but he's got a black eye. He's wearing a There you go.
We're very glad you're safe, Mark.
Thank you.
I didn't realize it's a head injury. That's hardcore. Yeah, you know, the thing about sprawl is Amanda Case talks about this now, and we had her on the podcast. I think she's my favorite guest ever. I love her work. It's absolutely fantastic. She fantastical. Not just fantastic, it's fantastical. She has a website about calm technology, and I think her speaker circuit stuff right now is about calm technology, and she's had tons of research on it. It's beautiful and awesome. One of the best things I've ever done recently is I reformatted my iPhone back to factory standard I didn't even think about backing up anything and just did it. And it was great. It was cathartic. Like, I knew that my photos were backed up because of Dropbox, and I knew that, like, my contacts were probably syncing in iCloud, and actually they were messy enough. I wish they had been blown away. But it's beautiful. So what happened then is I got the new iOS, and the new iOS tells you when stuff is tracking your location in the background. Like, the security is a lot better. And so I really like that because now it tells me, hey, Dropbox has been sharing your location this whole time in the background, and you had no idea. Do you want it to do that? And I'm like, no. They can't do that. And then I'm not loading apps on that I just don't use.
Yeah.
So app sprawl, right? That's a challenge. But photo sprawl's a huge challenge. Here's my situation right now is before the kids had cell phones and we only really had the digital camera, I had, every year, month by folders, all these photos very well organized on my home file share, right? Well, here comes along the cloud, which is going to make everything easier. I set up like I have my own personal Google share I pay for, which has got a terabyte for like $100 a year, which is crazy. I show the kids on the phone, upload your photos to the Google Drive share.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't happen. So we got photos that are across all these phones now. I got photos that exist on my laptop, my iPad, and my phone. And they're duplicate, right? So I have the ones that are in my stream versus the ones that are in the shared folder, plus the ones that go to Facebook and go to Google. It's just crazy. It's madness, right?
Yeah, and if you have multiple people taking multiple shots of the same thing, it's insane. It's gotten to the point where we're almost at the point where you don't have to take pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, for instance, one of my coworkers went to the LinkedIn conference, and they had this board up, this big whiteboard where anyone can write on it, and she showed a picture of it. And I was like, oh, I'd really like that again so I could pull it in as a reference or look at it or whatever. I needed to see it again. I Googled it, and there were hundreds of them.
Yeah.
Like, every angle of this board you could get. I mean, and granted, it's in California, and it's a LinkedIn conference, so people are connecting and taking pictures, whatever, but it was creepy.
No, I mean, I have the same problem just within myself. I'll there's less curation now. I'll just take a bunch of pictures. They'll all get automatically uploaded to the cloud, and if I want to see what happened, I'm seeing, 20 different versions of one thing instead of the one great picture I would have chosen before.
Or another good use case, my 5-year-old will play a game, and it'll have like a photo picture, like she's dressing up some doll or something, and then it'll say, take a screenshot, here, press here, and she presses it like 50 times. Like,
oh, yeah, yeah. Just wait till they're teenagers and you got 16,000 duck faces filling up your devices.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, terabytes not enough is what we're saying now. We'd like to rescind Hooper's earlier statement. We need several of them.
Not enough. And unfortunately, some of the ways to overcome some of these challenges are with more scary technology, like facial recognition and other things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you almost have to turn it on just so you can sort through things. I don't know. Do you have it turned on, Hooper?
Facial recognition, I do. I do. I do auto tagging, and I use Google's. What's that new thing they have where like build you a little storyboard automatically and all that kind of stuff?
Oh my goch, that's not exciting.
It's so cool. I do think it's awesome. But what I want next is I want an audio mapping tool that will go through like all of my .aa files and all my .mp3 files and all my .wav files and consolidate them down to just one. It's like, why does iTunes replicate for every profile? I have like 7 versions of the same exact audiobook on my laptop.
Oh, there's an app that does that. I think it's called Gemini app. Just search on the App Store. I assume you're using a Mac. Just search on the App Store for like duplicate finder, I think.
Yeah.
There's a couple apps that do that pretty well. There's actually some pretty good apps for sorting it, like the old cameras did. But I don't know. I just don't do it.
I just think every app now needs to be cloud aware. Like record storage or file storage needs to have it may be local, but the true source may be remote. And every time I launch, I should look both places and ask a question of like, which one do you want to use?
I still think most of the problems we deal with are because we're in this weird interim period. I mean, in 10 years from now.
Oh yeah, 10 years from now there will be no such thing as local storage.
In the meantime, take the time to understand yourself and your processes and your goals. Take the time that you need to yourself to do that. Your boss is never going to give you the time to do that. Your company is never going to give you time to do that. Your spouse, your kids, your dog, your car, that loan that you still haven't paid off is never going to give that to you. You need to take it. And take the opportunity as soon as possible, because it only gets worse if you wait. Trust me, I've seen businesses implode from not stopping and taking the time that they need to improve. That is hacking business technology. Thank you, Mark and Matt.
You're welcome, and learning pantomime, obviously.
See you guys.
Bye.
See you.